Welcome to this week's episode of the Recruitment Aversion. Today we will be discussing how employers can support graduates and apprentices. So again, I'm joined by Hannah for a final episode in this series on graduates and apprentices. So Hannah, start us off.
Oh God, that's nice. Final episode making me start it off.
Sorry.
I'll go back behind the editing after this. So I think the best place to start is how to actually find and I suppose select. Mm-hmm. Finding is easy because lots of people apply to jobs, especially when it says no experience required. And how do you select people that are applying for grads or apprentices? And I think the biggest thing that you need to do is actually set up assessment centres in some way, shape or form. So get these people into a space, set up some tasks. It's cliche. However, these people don't have experiences. So how are you going to be able to differentiate them between one another? How are you going to actually figure out if they are good for the job? How are you going to be able to go, yeah, actually, this person will fit in my team? Because ultimately, these people are coming to you with little to no experience.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say to obviously mix apprentices and grads as one assessment because those are two very completely different entities in themselves. But if we focus on sort of like the graduate schemes or graduate assessment centres that we run internally, they are put in a way that identifies all of the key skills that we need for the job. So we need people to be able to demonstrate leadership, but not too much, not too little, Goldilocks kind of situation. we need people to be able to share ideas. We need people to be able to be like collaborative, and we need people that aren't afraid to sort of like take reins and take control of the situation when things are going a little bit AWOL. And our assessment centre is set up in a way that does that, but in a very fun way. We think. Well, to be fair, it was quite fun. It's fun for us when we're watching you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun to get involved with, and I'm actually quite grateful for it because I think at first glance my CV probably didn't scream this girl could be good fit for recruitment. So getting to do the assessment centre meant you guys were able to see me in action, see how I work, how I think, how I interact with people, things like that. So for me, I was I was a little bit scared. I was like, oh no, what have I got to do? But, you know, I was
walking around with clipboards.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, what are they thinking? I'm like, but no, it was really fun. And it didn't actually feel like an interview because you set us challenges, games, tasks, things like that. And it got to the point where I forgot you guys were watching us because we were literally just getting involved in these tasks. And then obviously happy days, I got a call saying, we want to interview you. So it meant that, you know, clearly my behaviours or whatever I showcased during that,
they were all good.
Ticked whatever boxes. But I think, you know, maybe if you guys had just looked at my CV and then based that on whether or not you wanted to get me through to a proper interview, you maybe wouldn't have brought me through. Maybe, I don't know, obviously we won't know now, but I think it definitely is a good way to get a whole different group of people together, all with different skill sets, and see how they work in action and base your sort of next decision on that, really.
Yeah, and with assessment centres as well, obviously you still call people up. You're still always going to have that initial like telephone call where it's like, is this person relatively switched on for this? Or like, does this person sound like they're going to like fit in with our company? You're always going to have that like sort
initial
of like pre-assessment.
Yeah.
So it might sound weird to say when we're trying to say like, get everyone down, get people down that you think will actually be
the initial shortlist.
But yes, just don't judge a book by its cover. The CV really at this level is only half a story. I don't even know if it's half a story, it's a page.
Yeah.
So that would be the main thing with assessment centres. I think that's probably the best way to kind of like find it and select people to kind of get into the team.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I think it would be good to touch on onboarding.
Yes.
That's such a big part of...
so many people don't do.
Yeah, and it really is the make or break point because so many graduates and apprentices will drop out or leave if that isn't done correctly. You know, they'll be there for a week or 2 weeks and be like, I'm out of here. This isn't right for me. So if you can get the onboarding right, you're halfway there. You're probably more than halfway there. So I think, you know, in terms of what that should look like, I think on day one, you need to lay out what that onboarding will look like.
Yeah.
So you need to say, right, hi, welcome to the company, all that good stuff. You know, this week we're going to teach you this. Next week we're going to teach you this. By week 4 or 5, we're going to expect this of you.
Yeah.
So just sort of, so people know what they're going into and they can sort of plan it out in their head and think, oh, okay, cool, right, I'll be fully taught everything I need to know, and then by this point I've got to sort of take action. And a lot of people probably want to do things in their own time, a little bit of research. If it's a marketing job, say for example, they might want to practice some of the tools that you teach them at home, things like that. So I think it's really important to lay that out for someone so that they know where they stand, and they're not going to come in and be like, right, am I going to be thrown in the deep end today, or am I learning more today? So definitely lay out that onboarding plan.
Yeah, 100%. And if you're thinking, oh God, I've got to train these people for 5-6 weeks, what does that look like? The easiest way to try and figure out what to train people on is to ask your team. Like, go to your team and say, like, when you first started, what do you wish that you would have known? What is going to be valuable? What skills do these people need to know? What systems do we have in place? Use your team to kind of help form the training. I think a lot of them will be kind of more forthcoming with this anyway, because ultimately if you're getting someone in, it's going to help them with their job. So you'd like the person that's joining to be relatively competent in what they're doing. And I think actually in some cases, if you're asking people to help, even if it is just picking their brains for ideas, it's going to help them feel valued as well. It's going to help them, make them feel like they're having an impact. And the person that's going to be joining, they're going to be more willing to help because they know that they're putting the effort in to learn and get them up to standard. So I think using the team in order to actually structure what that training looks like is really, really important.
Yeah, and I think it's important as well to not have a one-size-fits-all approach, because people receive information differently, people learn differently. So I think it's important to identify how that person best learns. They might be someone who actually learns better on the job.
Yeah.
They might be someone who learns better from shadowing and seeing it being brought to life, or they might be someone who learns best from watching training videos and making notes and reading articles and documents and things like that. So I think find out how the person best receives information, and sort of tailor your onboarding process around that. As I said, it really isn't a one-size-fits-all approach.
No.
And I think that's the quickest way to weed people out if you're not accommodating for that.
Yeah, and I think off the back of that, if you are taking in consideration that people do learn differently, you need to be having catch-ups with them regularly.
Oh, yeah.
And you need to be able to say, like, right, how are you feeling? What's going on? What are you struggling with? Why are you struggling with this? What's actually going well as well? I think you always focus on the negatives. It's very easy to focus on the negatives, especially because either you're stressed, you're trying to learn everything. But make sure that you are saying, like, no, what is going well? Like, what does a good week look like? And make sure that when you're having these catch-ups with people, set targets. We set at the start, like, small, little achievable things that help people feel like they're doing a good job, because they are doing a good job. If you've got nothing to actually sort of prove that to yourself, sometimes you can be left a little bit deflated.
Yeah.
And so when you hit that milestone, it's like, okay, yeah, no, I have actually just done that training module, and now that is a good thing. That now means that I can do this, this, and this, and start working that into the framework. So you actually end up creating quite a, like, bespoke individual program for that person, without actually having to create individual plans, because it will just form as it goes along. It's not like we're saying, you have to create like a 6-week rigid thing and that's the only thing that you can do. I think if you adopt that practice, you'll probably end up finding that the apprentices and graduates, again, will leave in some way, shape, or form, or they'll be unhappy because you're not taking into consideration that they are individuals and have individual wants and needs. And I think something that is really important when you're just coming in at that level is these people that are joining you at graduate and apprentice level, they're actually learning what the world of work is, and they're learning what it means to be an adult. And I, at 25 years old, am still learning what it means to be an adult. So I think that's another consideration that people need to make. And I remember, like, when you first joined, like, you came out of university, you were in Coventry, weren't you?
I was in Coventry, commuting. I was commuting over an hour each way to work.
Oh my God, that's so far.
3 months or something. It was a lot. It was a lot.
It was a lot. But I have no idea how you've done that. Just thinking about it, an hour a day.
I don't know how I did it. I think I would leave the house at 7:15, and get home at like 6:30. So it was, almost like a 12-hour day. But, our boss was very accommodating. And when I wanted to settle into the company, and then I was like, okay, this is a good fit for me. This is where I want to be. I'm now happy to sort of move my life up and set my life up here in Leicester for this opportunity and build a life around this job and career. So when I said, that I was looking to move here, so he was happy for me to be saving the petrol money and saving a lot of time. And he was very accommodating with me going out on house viewings and things like that. You can leave early to go and view that house, or I'd see one, or he'd even send me a link to a house and be like, go and view that right now, leave work, I don't care, you need to go and view that house. And it was really good to sort of have that support, because I think it can be so stressful coming out of uni and then being like, right, this is the real world. I need somewhere to live, I need a job, I need a car, I need this, that and the other. So if you've got the support of your employer, it means you don't feel as stressed, and you're not bringing that home stress into your new job, essentially.
Yeah, it's so true. It just means that you can actually focus on doing your job. Yeah. Like say it's like half the battle. Mm-hmm. And I think that when you are trying to figure out what is life and adulting, I think if you actually have like your mentor or whoever it is, you've got someone in place, like let them help as well. Like if a person's got a question about like what life is, I mean, I remember asking Adam like, what is remortgaging my house? Like he's done it before. Like I need to do that this year. I don't really know what it is. But it's having that understanding and the flexibility to know that, okay, these people are coming into like the working world, and a lot of time they haven't been shown everything. They have like, obviously people always know what it is. People know that you have to have a house. People know that you have to have commute and you have to get places. That's fine. But there's so many like nuances to life that you're just sort of there like, I did not know that was a thing. Yeah. And it can be so overwhelming to have to deal with that alongside the stress of a new job. And, I remember I thought, I'm only 3 months in. Is it going to look bad if I'm like, hey, can I have some time off to go and view houses? But I knew how essential it was. And I remember at first I was a bit too scared to ask. And I hadn't mentioned yet that I was in the process of looking. And I saw a house that I really liked the look of. And then the next day it was gone from the market, because obviously I wasn't able to. And I wasn't able to like, in my head I thought, I can't view this till the weekend. By the weekend it was gone. So it was so good to have that support. But again, as I say, you can only have that support when you actually open up to them about it. So when I at first was a bit tentative to be like, can I have some time off to view this house, I was so glad that I actually eventually communicated it to them, because they were so accommodating with it. And I think that is something that you do just have to be open and honest, and that's something you can discuss, like you said, in those one-to-ones. It's not just about hey, how are you finding this job? It's how are things in general? Like, are you okay? Are you happy? Are you healthy? Is everything fine? Because I do think, especially when you are a graduate or an apprentice, your employer has a duty of care to you, to sort of make sure that you're okay, because you are spending the majority of your week at work and the majority of your life at work. So it's important that they are supporting you with all of the different sort of nuances and things that sort of come alongside setting up your life and your career. 100%. So communicating that is really, really key. I think, yes, obviously people need to let them know when things are wrong, and you do need to do that. Mental note for self. But it is about like in those early stages communicating like, right, these are the sort of channels that you've got, these are the different people that you can speak to. And I think, yes, at an apprentice level, talking like talking from experience, but half experience. But when you've got a mentor, you can go to them for that one, like that one person is your be all and end all. They have the knowledge, they know what they need to do. You can go to them for live things as well, and let the mentor know that is an expectation of them, that could happen. But also make sure that person has got a network of people around them, so that they can learn from different people and learn from the experiences within the organisation. I think that'll be the same for graduates as well. I think the more people that you can be exposed to, and the more people that you can annoy, or let people annoy with questions, the more beneficial it's going to be for that individual.
Definitely. I think for me, when I had joined this company on the graduate scheme, being in an office environment where people were constantly on the phone, I was able to sort of eavesdrop and being around people. And I think my biggest advice is, I know at the moment there's a lot of graduates and sort of young marketing professionals, and in every sort of industry really, who want remote working or hybrid working. But I think, in your initial stages, I think you need to be willing to like be in an office to sort of soak that up. So I think employers need to make the office environment enjoyable and accessible for people, so that they don't immediately come in with, I don't want to be here, I want to be at home, and then they're not able to soak everything up, essentially. So yeah, definitely important to have a good office space where people feel like they can engage with their colleagues and learn things from them.
Yes, I completely agree with that one. And you don't need a good coffee machine to have that. I think the people that you have in place, and if you're communicating it across the board that we want to be an environment that is inviting and we want to be an organisation that you can have conversations with, I think everyone needs to be on the same page. And the only way you can get that is through communication.
Oh, yeah,
and through the people that you hire. You need to have people of the same mindset that know that that's valuable and it's not time wasting.
Definitely. And I think my final point really is, you know, a lot of graduates and apprentices, they are quite ambitious. They are thinking about where their life is going. And I think employers need to make sure that they are showing the different opportunities available to that person, you know, whether that's additional courses that they can support them with taking, whether that's progression plans and like a career structure and a path and big targets they can hit and what they'll get if they hit that, incentives, things like that. I think if you lay out a big path, you lay out options, and you lay out what a successful career in that industry, in that job would look like, then you're more likely to sort of keep those graduates and apprentices on and have sort of high levels of retention of them.
100%. So I remember being back in the day, makes it sound really old. It was only like 7 years ago. I don't even know. I can't eventually. I've slept since then. But yeah, I remember when I first like joined as an apprentice in the industry, and like the piece of advice, which I'm glad that I ignored, was like, as soon as you've done your apprenticeship, like leave. Because once the apprentice, always apprentice, you'll always be an apprentice. That was the motto. Once an apprentice, always an apprentice. And that mentality has changed. And I think a lot of that is because of correspondence that's happening in schools, and both at like university and at like college level. It is very much like, no, these people are young, inspiring, upcoming people that are going to make an impact to businesses, and they should be treated as such.
Yeah, they'll have the freshest ideas, the freshest knowledge, any sort of new innovations and research and things. They will be the first ones to be taught it in uni or school or whatever. And I think they have such a valuable sort of insight into things that maybe the older generation don't know about, and they can come with those really exciting ideas and add a lot of value. I definitely agree with that.
Yep, you're 100% right. They do offer value, and I think sometimes that can be like not forgotten, but it once was forgotten. I think it's very aware now how much value that they bring, providing that they've got the support in place. It is a big commitment, I think, to take on an apprentice and a graduate, one that some businesses might kind of half make because, you know, the idea of cheap labour. So incorrect. But if they've got the right support in place, these people will flourish, and they will continually add to it, because if you start putting in a cycle of learning and development and enrichment, it's only going to help grow the company more, and it's only going to help the people that are there as well. Because if you're picking up on this and it's okay, this person's doing really well with this training, maybe I could branch out and do some additional training to the people that are already in the team to help take them to the level that I want to be. Yeah,
I mean, those sort of junior people, those graduates, those apprentices could end up being your top talent one day and your biggest asset to the business and your biggest success story. So I guess the message we're trying to give with this episode, and I suppose the best way to conclude it, is look after your juniors, look after those graduates, look after those apprentices, support them in any way you can, make them feel comfortable, make them feel settled, because you never know what value they could bring eventually.
100%. And don't be afraid to push them a little bit. I think sometimes you can get a little bit worried and be like, okay, I don't want to go too far. I don't want to like upset the apple cart. But young people are resilient, and they are driven when they are given the opportunity to be driven.
Absolutely.
Thanks for that. Then it was great to have a couple of episodes with you.
It's been lovely having you on.
Well, thanks. I'm going to go hide behind the marketing screen now, never to be seen again.
Classic.